There we go. All right, we can get started. And as more folks join, I will try to keep an eye on the waiting room as well. Yep, as soon as I said it, somebody popped up. I hope you're all enjoying some very nice spring-like weather. And this is our first office hours on a Monday that it'll be light out when we're done, and you can still enjoy some sunshine. So that's something to look forward to. I'm keeping my eye out and I don't see her, but if you're here, I'm looking to see if Sarah DeFrank has jumped on yet. She was going to join today to be available. She has some updates on, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of what's going on with the new SNAP requirements and the potential for people to fill some of those requirements with volunteer hours. So we've the advocacy folks, Sarah DeFrank and her team have been working on this a lot in Tompkins County, but also looking to expand where it makes sense. Some resources, if any of our partners want to be available and be a resource to people looking for volunteer hours, if your pantry could use a hand, this could be a really nice way to kind of help each other out. But I'm not seeing her on yet. So hold that thought. And maybe she's going to be able to join us in a little bit. But in the meantime, I'll turn it over to you. I know it's been a busy uh, 80 months in 2026 is what it feels like, right? We're wrapping up the 300th day of the month. And I know you've all been feeling it as well. So I hope you're taking some time to yourself and, like I said, enjoying this weather or doing whatever gives you a little bit of break from the work. But yeah, I'll open it up to you if there's anybody who wants to kick it off. Anything top of mind?
I have a comment. So, the whole the thermometers for dry storage. My question goes out to my fellow um, food pantry people or anybody who needs to adhere to this new. I guess it's a HIPNAP requirement or a TFAP requirement. I can't remember. Office of General Studies, I know, or General Services is the one who will ding us, I guess, if we don't have these. I, I, I look at temperature range for shelf storage foods or dry storage, I guess it is. 50 degrees to 70 degrees, I think is next to impossible. Obviously not an issue right now because the temperatures aren't that cold. And um, I kind of went back and forth with Eric about this, and I know it's not the food bank's problem. I understand you're conveying the information, but am I the only one, I guess, that thinks it's obscene for us to have to keep our food, dry storage food no hotter than 70 degrees? Like I don't keep my thermostat at home, you know, at 70 degrees. I mean, in the summer. Like, right now it's like below 70, but like whenever you're trying to cool it, but we have AC and I just don't even see that as something that can happen um, whenever it's hot out there. So like, and I don't know, if we do this and say they come and they visit us and it's in the fall, I don't know when they do their visits, and they see that the temperature has been at like, 75, 78, whatever. Like what happens? Like, do we know what happens? So that's kind of my question. I don't know if anybody on the call or on the office hours has experienced the visit. And I'm assuming this is a new requirement, so it's not like anyone can speak to that. Um, but so that's my big thing is when I kept seeing those numbers, whenever I first heard it at an agency advisory council meeting, I was just kind of like a little bit struck dumb, a little bit like going, really? 50 to 70? Like, and then I just thought about it. I said, my house in the summer isn't that cold. Maybe my basement is, and I do have some dry goods in there, but for sure my pantry's not, the food pantry's not, and we have air conditioning. It's just too cost prohibitive for us to, or for anybody, I would think, to keep a large quantity of shelf stable food um, at
Mary,
70.
can I ask what Eric's response was?
He says he wasn't sure. He
Okay.
says, I don't know, if they ding you, was I think kind of like the term, what happens with regards to that. But my thought is who the heck decided upon 50 to 70 degrees? I was reading the documentation and they're saying something about, so cans of food don't bulge. I'm like, at 70, even 75, even 80 degrees, cut me a break. Like am I the only one that thinks this? That
No,
was
I
like out of
agree.
left field.
I
Yeah.
agree as
No,
well.
definitely not the only one.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
agree.
think so, but it's just like there's like why did they set this, but what was the reasoning behind setting that? And if they're saying about, the safety of food, I'm like part of me wants to ask if it's like some people down in Washington, D.C. or wherever. I want to say, I want to know the temperatures in your pantries at home, at your homes. Like, seriously? Like, why are you, it's very cost prohibitive for me. I mean, we already, because of our AC and for how big our space is, um, we already pay a boatload of money energy wise, more so in the summer than we do in the winter, because all the appliances we have, they help to keep it warm in the winter. But in the summer, it's like, it's hard to, we'll have the air on and we'll have windows open in certain rooms just because there's like three large scale, refrigeration freezer units in there, and it's a small room and it's getting warm, so we'll open it up. But yeah, I just thought that was odd, and I put it out there, and my question is, I I disagree strongly with that number. Part of me thinks 80, 75, 80 degrees, I would think would be perfectly fine. And I'm pretty sure that would be easy for us to hold it to. But I even don't think 80 or 85 degrees is going to be bad. Like what happens down in Texas? I mean, I'm sure no one's keeping it that cold. So we can't be the only pantry state that looks at those numbers and says, that's insane. That's just not right. But I'll leave
I
it up.
I appreciate the feedback, and you're right, Mary. It is new. I think when Eric hopped on to talk to folks at the AAC about this, it was the first that we had really heard of it. Not before it getting on that agenda for that meeting. So this is new. I think it's important feedback. I don't have the answers. I think that's a really good point about how do other states handle those ranges and where do those ranges come from? Because to your point, I don't believe my home would maintain that temperature in the summer either in my pantry. So good feedback. I've got a couple things here for me to follow up on, and see if Eric can get more information from OGS,
Okay.
specifically about, what if there is a violation? And I'm sure it's the type of thing that, it's just corrective action is requested and then there's a time frame, but I don't know that. I don't know what the process is since it's so new. So I'm gonna follow up on that and I'll get back to this group and just the network as a whole and share what I find out because to your point, it is new and I think it's important for OGS to hear from all of you. There's been a few things over the past, just few months really that have come up. And I think it might have been someone in office hours had asked the question if the Office of General Service ever does like a public comment periods where people can weigh in on these things. And I think that's such a brilliant idea. Obviously, for what we're running into, they certainly don't, but we have feedback. Where does it go, and how do we make sure that they know how this affects the people actually being asked to do the work? So, always important to hear that feedback from the network.
Okay. And I don't like Eric did say about installing like window air conditioners. And I'm like that
That
it,
that might not
I don't
be realistic
well,
for everyone.
yeah, it wouldn't be realistic for everyone. I mean, I'm not even talking about the cost of them, like I mean, you got because I don't know that they would do any good. I
Sure,
really
sure.
don't know that that would make that much of a difference and to go to the cost of that. So, like what does it mean? I guess my question would be, what does it mean if we can't meet that requirement? And um, and if there's a corrective action, like what do they expect from that? Because I'm not welcoming them coming and checking on me and saying you're not meeting this requirement, but
Sure.
I I don't think it would happen. I mean, it wouldn't happen in my own home, and I don't think it would happen there. And one thing I will say, we go through our food in our pantries. Most people can attest to this too, I'm sure, in their own pantries, faster than I go through my food at home.
Sure.
So I would say, so it doesn't make much sense to me that, it has to be what they're saying it has to be, but then at home, so anyways, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no, point taken. Thank you, Mary, and thanks for those who voiced their agreement there. I think there's a larger conversation has to happen, and I'll go on some fact-finding mission and see what Eric can find out with OGS, and hopefully we
We're
can
gonna run
get
down
some
to Judy,
answers.
so I'll be home in an hour or so.
Oh, I think that's someone just coming through.
You want
Sarah
your call?
DeFrank, I do see that you joined us. Do you want to say hi to folks and tell them why you're here today?
Yes. Hi, everyone. How are you doing? I recognize a lot of you. It's good to see you. It's been a while for some. Yeah, I am here today, one, to talk about our kind of an upcoming challenge for the network and the folks that we serve, and that is the changes that were made in the One Big Beautiful Bill to the SNAP work requirements and time limits. So I wanted to go through that rule and share a little bit about what the food bank's doing in hopes that we can support people who are on SNAP that might be subject to this new work requirement, as well as potentially support our network of pantries and meal sites who may be looking for volunteers. And then I also have some advocacy updates, just a little bit that we've been up to lately. I'm going to be making it to all of your coalition meetings that are coming up. So I don't want to be too redundant, but I can figure out if everyone would be interested in hearing that. And then you can let me know if I did a good job or I need to do something different for the coalitions. But so what does everyone think? Should we do the whole shebang, or should we do an abridged version?
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Sid. All right, I'm going to share my screen. First, I'm going to get the right thing up on my screen so that you don't have to see everything I've been doing today. And I will get this to the slideshow. All right. Let me know if you can see my screen. You can see it?
Yep, it's
Okay,
up,
perfect.
Sarah.
Thanks. And then I need to see my screen. Sorry, everybody. Never done this before. Just kidding. I do it. Let's see. Oh, geez. Oh, gosh. Okay. So I've got some advocacy updates for the partners, and that is you, for kind of the Q1 of 2026 is what I'm calling it. Two, I think, very cool things that I want to share with everyone is that 2025 was the high. We distributed the most amount of food we've ever distributed. And in response to the federal shutdown, Pantry Partners moved a ton of food, a record number and amount of food. And so I think it is worth celebrating that. A lot of what we did was because everybody was ready to go and advocated for more funding. And I'm just very impressed with the network and think it's important to celebrate those small wins. So I wanted to share those two things. I also want to be able to see people's faces. So hold on a second. Here we go. All right. Next up, we shall. There we go. People served. I think a lot of you have already seen this, but across our entire network, we were up 4% compared to 2024. And then kind of more importantly, I think the best number to look at is like our last kind of measurement of normal is probably 2019, before my time, but I agree with this measurement, that we're still up 74% compared to 2019. So, we don't want to compare to the pandemic because those were record times, but even if we're looking at that, requests for food have gone up, and the amount of food and services that our network has provided has been incredible. And that's both good and bad, right? So there's opportunity in a challenge. Another pretty great thing to celebrate is that pounds went up, pounds distributed went up. So more people asked for food, but everybody was able to distribute more food. With some exceptions, this is also just, the need might have been met in Chemung and Tompkins and through Chow networks, but still pretty staggering numbers. Steuben was really doing something this last year, and Tioga as well. And again, 19.4 million pounds distributed. That's staggering. And I'll just let you know that I've been using that number when I go to Albany to speak with our legislators and also when I go to DC. This is a lot of numbers, but what I really want folks to focus on is that central column. It does tell a larger story, and I think that the entire story is really interesting, but what I want to focus on is the trend in commodities and the trend in purchased food. So commodities since the fiscal year 19, which is 4.9 million, the trend you see, it kind of is going down. And those commodities are the food that we get from the federal government, from the TFAP food, which I think you all know there isn't any on the menu this month. So we are seeing a decline in commodities over time, and we're seeing an increase in food purchased. And that purchased food means the food bank is spending more money to ensure that there's food in the pantries, or on the menu rather. But the commodities are important because that's what, I think when I first started, people described it as like pennies from heaven or something like that, which is kind of funny, but still, nonetheless, we're seeing less of that, and that impacts our partner budgets, right? As you know better than anyone. So I just kind of blew up those two graphs so that people could really see there's a downward trend in commodities, or that TFAP money or funding, and then an upward trend in the amount of food that's being purchased. So that impacts how we can do business, how you can do business, how you source.
We've noticed that too. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, but I wanted to let you know what we're showing to our state and federal legislators. But yeah. So a small group, myself, Randy, and Mark Bordeaux went to DC last week. Our primary focus was on TFAP because of the specific situation that we're in right now. We thought we better focus on what we can focus on. So we showed those graphs. We talked about how over time, the commodities or food purchased from large farms has gone down. I mean, I remember I was running a pantry in the beginning of COVID in California, but the commodities were still the same. We had all those lentils, all the stuff we didn't really, there was a lot of commodities. There was a lot of TFAP funding, right? And then storage and distribution and transportation opportunities, they're talking about doubling both of those in the Farmers Feeding America Act. So the reason that I want to talk to you about that is the opportunity or the silver lining right now that we can be talking about with Congressman Langworthy, Congresswoman Tenney, Congressman Riley, is ensuring that we have enough TFAP funding so that we can get that product back on the shelves and mitigate your budgets. Some kind of bad news, I would say, or a missed opportunity is we really did try to advocate to our Democratic representatives across the nation, but in this case, in our service area, that would be Congressman Riley, to delay the SNAP cost shift. And for those of you who don't know what the SNAP cost shift is, in the One Big Beautiful Bill, there's both an administrative, sorry, my mind is blanking, but there's an administrative cost shift that moves the shared cost of the SNAP program onto the states, and that's going to impact our state budgets quite dramatically. We were not able to make any changes where that's concerned. And so we have more to talk about there, but I'm going to move on to the next slide. So for the New York State budget, I've been up to Albany twice and had some meetings on the phone and via web. Right now, we're really trying to schedule some in-district meetings. So I did want to put a plug out there to everybody who would like to host a meeting coming up to let me know, because we have some education to do. So at the state level, we're asking for $75 million for HIPNAP. That's not just for our food bank, it's for the 10 food banks in the Feeding New York State network. And then that money would be divvied up based on our service area, our number of people served in our service area. And the same for Nourish New York. And then very broadly, we were also talking about protecting and strengthening SNAP through a number of different things, but you're very familiar with the NOEPs who might even come and do outreach at your pantries. A few kind of protective measures to ensure that people's EBT cards have the same safety as somebody's credit card would, so that lessens any kind of SNAP skimming that has been, excuse me, that's my child calling, any SNAP skimming that could steal the benefits of people who are on SNAP and then they have a really hard time recouping it. I'm in a meeting, Mickey. Sorry, got to make sure she doesn't call me back because I don't know about your all kids and grandkids, but she'll just keep calling if I don't answer. So we had at the New York State level, we had really great responses from our legislators. Every single one of our legislators, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, are in full support of fully funding HIPNAP and fully funding Nourish New York. So right now they're working on one House budgets. I believe that the Assembly is done, but the Senate's not quite done yet, last I heard. And the push really is on the governor to ensure that this ask is included completely. In her first draft of her budget, there was a portion of each that was included. So I think that both both one house budgets will impact the way that the governor decides, but we still have opportunities to call our senators and call our governor to push on this. And we've had some calls to action, so I can send that out again if you're interested. But then we also put up our kind of more broad policy priorities where it covers just how we're looking at the potential for policy and advocacy work and what we're doing at the state and federal levels. So I wanted to share that link there, and I can share these slides out when we're done. Okay, any questions on advocacy at the state or federal level? Okay, so should I move into our SNAP changes?
Definitely, please.
Okay, thanks. All right, so we've got some SNAP changes coming up. They're actually already in effect. Like I mentioned, the One Big Beautiful Bill did some pretty notable, I mean, there's different narratives, but I would say damage to the SNAP program. And you've gotten some messaging around that, but just in brief, there has always been SNAP work requirements for certain populations of SNAP recipients. The changes in this, the One Big Beautiful Bill, were that the SNAP work requirements apply to people, adults age 18 to now 64 instead of 54. So there's another decade of older adults that are added to that work requirement. The acronym ABOD stands for able-bodied adults without dependents. So essentially, this change has added in some subcategories of able-bodied adults without dependents, so 54 to 64. Veterans are no longer exempt. Unhoused individuals are no longer exempt. People with a history of domestic violence, so survivors of domestic violence, are no longer exempt, and former foster youth 18 to 24 are no longer exempt. There are many exemptions. I did not want to list them here, but we have a toolkit that you'll see I kind of talk about at the bottom of this slide that's going out to everyone later today. And the bottom line is, well, here's a couple things to remember. One is, if people do not meet their work requirements, which is something I don't want to go into in detail because it's really meant for the DSS worker to do that with the SNAP recipient. They will, after 3 months, lose their SNAP benefits for 3 years. So it's pretty punitive. And so that's why we want to ensure that our network knows what they can do to help. So let's get into that. Part of the SNAP work requirements can be met by either work, so if you have a job, education, work training, or volunteerism. And so where the pantries and meal sites come into play is, if you have a need for volunteers, you could host a person who's a SNAP recipient who is also looking to meet these work requirements through volunteerism. I think that that's an awesome opportunity because everybody kind of understands the importance of food security and food access. And so it seems like, again, like one more silver lining in an otherwise kind of dreary situation. So we've created a toolkit. We have also purchased the trauma-informed care training platform from Leah's Pantry so that the interface is easier and people can just log on and quickly do this 1.5 hour training. Myself and Sarah have taken it. I'm not sure if anybody on the call has taken it, but it's very much geared toward pantries. So whereas other trauma-informed care trainings might be more geared toward a medical setting, this is like exactly the work that you're doing. So I think that it's really valuable, and that'll be free to you. The toolkit includes a lot of useful kind of steps. The first one is just a flyer to print out. If you can't print it out, let us know, to put up in your pantry to let people know this change is happening. Of course, the local DSS offices have been communicating to folks that this might impact, but as you know, if you are food insecure, if you are hurrying to try to make ends meet, sometimes mail is challenging to get through. Sometimes these bureaucratically worded documents can be really difficult for people to understand. So our hope is that our pantry partners are a trusted messenger and that they can kind of just get the word out and know that it's another place for them to see this, that this might be impacting them. And again, the thing you need to tell them is contact DSS. It may impact you, it may not. And if it does impact them, there's a math formula that they have to work through to figure out how many hours they need to accrue. And it's something that we can't help them with. So that's the quick version of it, but I'm excited for you all to see the toolkit. Again, there's going to be some emails coming out from our programs and partnerships coordinators to just let us know what's going on. And then I guess any questions about that?
One quick one.
Sure.
When you said people will be referred to DSS if
Hold on
to
one
resolve.
second. Sorry, Jean Ellen, are you talking? Can everyone else mute so I can hear Jean Ellen?
Are we ready?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Okay. Well, you had said in order to resolve issues around the work requirements that individuals need to contact DSS. Are the NOAPs going to assist with that as well, or are they
The
only
NOAPs
for applicants?
can assist with that, but the recommendation is to contact your DSS caseworker.
Okay. Thank you.
Because they have the most up-to-date, and NOAPs will be really helpful in this. There's some counties that have a screening tool. Not every county does. But the easiest thing to do is contact your caseworker. If you, again, there's a list of exemptions that are from OTDA. It's pretty easy to read. Those are all linked in the toolkit that we've provided. But I would just say, just make sure and contact your DSS caseworker. If you are 18 to 64 and you're an able-bodied adult without dependents. So, yeah.
Sally, go ahead, Bridget. I think both Bridget and Mary both have their hands up. So, Bridget,
Okay.
if you can kick it off.
How old are the dependents? What's the age? Is there an age limit at which they stay?
This has changed as well. So one of the changes with the One Big Beautiful Bill is actually if your dependents are under the age of 14. So otherwise, if you have a 14 through 18-year-old dependent, even though they may have specific needs that require your presence, you're going to need to go talk to your DSS caseworker and get that sorted out. So, even the acronym is incorrect now because technically 14 to 18-year-olds are dependents. Thanks for asking that, Bridget. Were you feeding me that because you already knew that answer? Yeah. Were you giving me a little, oh, okay. Thanks. Well, thanks anyway. And then Mary, I think you're next.
Yeah, so does the toolkit talk about where the responsibility falls on reporting of those hours?
Yes, and I can just tell you very easily right now, the responsibility of reporting the hours is on the SNAP recipient. The responsibility of the pantry is signing a monthly documentation.
Okay.
So this person would be, and in the toolkit, Dylan and Sam, who do the volunteering at they run the volunteer program at the food bank. So if you go into production and volunteer there, they have a nice little form that they've offered as like a best practice, but it is not your responsibility to track hours. It's just your responsibility to sign off on them.
Okay. The other question, or maybe it's more of a comment, is don't you feel that people are probably just going to bypass the pain in the butt stuff of doing that and just seek out more help through at food pantries? Don't you think our numbers will increase or no?
So I see what you're saying, and I, as both a former SNAP recipient and and I received other programs as well, I much preferred getting my groceries at the store like all the other
Mhm.
people I knew were doing.
Okay.
And so I would say, you know, I would try to probably meet that work requirement through the 4 mechanisms that they lay out. And if volunteerism is one of them, because like, for whatever reason, you might be working but not working enough hours and you don't want to work more, but maybe you could volunteer to meet the rest of those hours. I think some people might be interested in that. Do I think we are going to have an uptick in requests for food? Yes, I absolutely do.
Okay. That was
Because
my
one, this is a very convoluted, like we're trying to make it as clear as possible, but this is a challenging thing to navigate. So I think just the first thing is like everybody, even if you don't want to host volunteers, needs to post this change to try to help the county, help the DSS workers, help the NOAPs get the word out about these changes. Because if people fall through the cracks because they didn't know, it's no fault of ours necessarily, but it will impact us and it will impact us for 3 years. So I think it's in everyone's best interest to be a messenger for sure. And then, to decide whether or not you want to host a volunteer in this way is, up to the pantry for sure.
Sarah, can you reiterate? Oh, sorry, Bridget. I just had a quick question. And then Kerm has his hand up, and then we'll popcorn back over to you. Sarah, can you just repeat what you had said about the 3 years? So if folks fail to meet the requirement, it's an automatic
Yeah, I'll say it again.
ban
So
or
if
yeah, go
so
ahead.
part of the work rule or the work requirement is it's attached to a time limit. The time clock, if you will, has started ticking March 1st. So that means the whole month of March, April, May, folks who are subjected to these new rules have an opportunity to bank the appropriate amount of hours. First, they need to figure out what that is. If they're required or they need an exemption, and then what that math problem is, what that number is. And they have 3 months to bank kind of like, I'll just say I go and I find out I need to volunteer 20 hours a month. So I need to volunteer 20 hours a month for 3 months or I lose my SNAP benefits for 3 entire years. So again, it's a pretty punitive response to this. And so I think, there's a fair and reasonable concern. And I think that's why we're trying to rally the troops, if you will, around getting the word out to folks.
Sure, because it's already March 9th, so
It's
clock
already
is
March
ticking
9th.
for folks for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Kerm, you're up next.
Yeah, thank you. This helps a little, and I'm looking forward to that toolkit because I think that it will have a lot of information in there that you don't have. One thing that I did note in here is that I really think we have to form a liaison, if you will, with somebody in DSS that will be able to answer those questions and be able to figure out to give us the information we need to maybe help volunteers or help SNAP recipients volunteer for us.
So
And
Kerm, the liaison is the toolkit, and the counties will talk to people, but we've included everything you need to know is in the toolkit.
good.
So what the hope is that the toolkit has addressed the questions. And if you have more questions, I can't answer them. I know what's in the toolkit. I just don't want to verbally overwhelm everyone right now, because I know people learn and take in information in different ways.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet. And when you look at the toolkit, let me know what you think. I have the link in a couple more slides, and I'll drop it in the chat too as we're done. Any other questions? Bridget, are you next?
Yeah, by the way, I don't have one of those little hand things. We're running a different operating system, so I have to do this. You said that homeless are not exempt. Is there any length of time that someone can be homeless and not subject to these rules?
I think if you're determined to be homeless, you would be subject to a work requirement. The question is, and the reason the directive is to contact your DSS caseworker, is because, again, as I mentioned, there's many exemptions. So somebody might be homeless and subject to the work requirement, but they have, an accommodation of some other sort that would make them exempt. So let's see. I think I can pull up. Wait, no, this isn't it. Don't look. It's wrong one. That's going to get wonky. The toolkit has the exemptions, and I can send them as a follow-up, but really, I think the rule or I think the best thing we can do is get the word out that folks who may be subject to these new work requirements call their DSS worker. We're not social workers. We're not DSS workers. We certainly don't know the math methodology that's applied to figuring out how many hours they need to accrue. So I know that we want to understand the rules, and I do as well, and I appreciate that, but don't worry too much. And it will be in the toolkit. That's all I have to say there. I'm going to summarize, but I think we could talk more about this for sure if we have time. So we had an incredible Q4, record-breaking quarter in more ways than one, pounds distributed and people served. I want to thank you all for that. I know that it was very stressful circumstances, and I don't want to just Pollyanna that either. Like, people were very stressed out. It was traumatic, and people had to work really hard. But I do think that we should be proud of the work that we did in Q4. Agencies still have access to emergency funds from shutdown in the short term, but don't stop fundraising and talking about how much money that you might need, because this is a short term, right? Yeah. It's a short-term relief, and we don't want to depend on the state giving us more money or the counties giving us more money. The uncertainty of government support is a real thing, and I think that we need to continue to talk about that. I know that it seems like the New York State is really stepping up for us this year, but will that be a possibility next year? I don't think so. So it's something that we need to plan for. We're purchasing more food, and food is more expensive. I don't really have to tell you that, but sometimes it's nice to hear people say it out loud. It's really important that we tell our legislators that. Even if our legislators in New York State were supportive of our asks for HIPNEP and Nourish New York, and were supportive of emergency funds, making sure they know that we're purchasing more food and food is more expensive and that it's impacting the communities that you serve, that's really essential. And then my ask of you is if I send out any kind of call to action, if you have the time to share it with your networks and to make those calls, I'm assuming most of you do on that are here on this call. Like I'd mentioned before, we're going to be planning legislative visits in each county to ensure that our legislators see everybody in action. So we're going to want to have partners in that. So please let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. And again, you know, folks in Tioga recently got some emergency funding from the Tioga County Legislature and went to Sister Mary's pantry, and everybody was there kind of in celebration and to give thanks, but also to talk about things that were coming up for them. And I think working in collaboration with your county peers is a really good idea. And then again, like I mentioned, please spread the word about the changes to SNAP. First and foremost, print out that flyer that you'll see in the toolkit. If you can't print things, message your PPC, message me, and we can print them out for you and get them on the next delivery. Here's the links. Let me see if I can copy this. No, I cannot. Here we go. Yee. I'll put this in the chat.
And we had a question in the chat, Sally, about Glenda was asking if this would be available on the website. I'm not sure with the.
It is on the website.
It is. Okay, great.
So it's in the partner portal under latest news and updates. And it's also just, I linked it in the chat, just the toolkit directly. And then Glenda, and for any other partners on here from Tompkins County has a really awesome platform called Tompkins Opportunity that if you need the link to, I can share it with you, Glenda, but to try to spread the word on that, because that's kind of been helpful, I think.
And Deb, your hand has been up for a little bit. Do you have a question for Sarah?
Yeah, just a quick question on the if we as a pantry have someone just one of our clients come to us with one of these volunteer hour sheets to fill out, do we need to be officially registered anywhere as a place where they can get hours?
Nope. No, good question. So what we're offering is and you'll see in the toolkit, this is kind of laid out more clearly, but we are offering the trauma-informed care training. And then if pantry partners complete the trauma-informed care training on Vivery, which is our new food finder map, we're going to tag you as a partner who's trauma-informed care certified. And what we're also going to do is tag you as a partner if you say you are willing, who's accepting potential SNAP volunteers. And the process for that is if the person's a good fit and they need hours and you have hours and you can give them something like relatively meaningful, that you should do that. But you don't have to be listed. You don't have to take the trauma-informed care training. We just highly recommend it. And, you know, you might already have people that you know, people who volunteer with you who are already SNAP recipients, and they might come to you kind of organically.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about.
So I'm going to also just copy and paste the exemptions in the chat. Or actually, you know what I'll do? I'll try to share my screen again. Dear goodness. I'm going to try to share my screen again because I can do this, right, everybody? Hold on. Now I'm going to double share everyone's face. Oh my gosh. Nope. It's just wild. Here we go. Here's the exemptions. Can you see this page here?
Yeah. Oh,
okay,
nope.
Let me get it to legible. So you are currently working 30 or more hours, you're exempt. Or you're earning at least $217.50 per week. You're pregnant. You're receiving disability benefits. You're receiving unemployment benefits if you have a child younger than 14. If you're participating in a substance use treatment program, if you're responsible for the care of an ill or disabled person, if you are a student enrolled in any recognized school, job skill training, or institution of higher learning at least half time and meet the student eligibility criteria. So it's kind of a lot. And I think I stopped sharing, right?
Yep.
Okay. So to Bridget's point, an unhoused person may also meet one of these other exemptions and may not be subjected to the work requirements. And it's not really for us to try to solve that for them, because if we do it wrong, we could really hurt them unintentionally. So that's why we're going to leave that work to the DSS caseworker. Does that make sense?
But to me, I have quite a few people that are, homeless, houseless, whatever you want to call it, and it's to start going around and telling them, you've got to get right on this now.
Yeah.
And the other thing here is how many you don't have an address, so how are you going to get a job? It's just a mess.
The address stuff that caseworkers are supposed to help people with and they can use their address.
So I didn't understand.
Yeah, I think, if you go on mute, it might be easier because there's some feedback. But DSS caseworkers usually will have an unhoused person use the DSS office as the address. So there is some guidance there for DSS offices and folks that are unhoused. Bev, did you have your hand up?
That's a good reminder to also maybe send a little good juju the way of the DSS offices, because this is all new for them as well. And
yep, that's a good
I'm
point,
sure
Sarah.
it's not very clear on their end of things either. So
the other thing is that nationally right now, DSS offices are understaffed. So with this big administrative lift, they're going to be doing their best to help their caseload of folks, but it's also a lot of people. So we'll want to be kind to them and, be kind to them as well. Bev?
Okay, my question is, I'm different from everybody else. You guys are all pantries. I'm mobile. I have people, even yesterday, I had families that don't even know about the mobile, and it drives me crazy because we do so much advertising on it. But do I have a quota as to how many volunteers? Because I had to turn a volunteer, well, several of them away, because I don't know what my quota is. And I have so many. But I try to tell them to go somewhere else, but they want to work at the mobiles.
You're going to ask Lindsay how many people you can have, and she'll let you know if it's too many, because you have too many at the mobile, then somebody can fall out of the line and get run over by a car, or fall off the back of the truck, which I know they're not supposed to be back there. But
no.
I think, though, bringing up the mobiles is a really good idea, because we can print those flyers out and you can hand them out to folks.
So we got a meeting with Lindsay tomorrow. So
could
I have them by tomorrow? Is that possible? Because
probably not, but I bet somebody can drop them off to you before your next distribution.
All right. And I'm wondering if I can get one of my friends from DSS right here in Schuyler County come to the food truck maybe. And maybe they have handouts that they want to give. So I should check on that too.
Yeah. And so the handouts in the toolkit are OTDA
Okay,
approved handouts.
okay.
So they have the correct information. It's not food bank handouts that we like made different.
Okay. And they should know, a lot of people should know because it's been all over the television, all over the news.
Yeah, if you watch the news.
Now, if you watch the news, right? And if you don't
Yeah.
have a computer, so those handouts are great. Thank you so much. That's
Yeah,
it.
thanks, Bev. Good thinking. Any other questions or feedback? I know I kind of talked a lot. How'd I do, Deb?
Thank you, Sally. I think that was all. I mean, it's so timely and, also great reminder at the top of all the hard work that you've all done during 2025 and the beginning of 2026. And certainly no signs of it slowing down anytime soon. I did want to give a quick update. We're almost at time, but just really quick so folks know, and I don't have dates on these yet, but we are expecting a little Nourish New York love coming into the food bank. So we've got over the next couple weeks, there's going to be like chicken leg quarters, some polenta flour, which is like a fine ground cornmeal, cream cheese, green beans, peas, salted butter, potatoes, chicken pot pie, sweet corn, and diced carrots. So, I know we touched on how dismal TFAP has been, but there are a few Nourish New York things coming our way. So keep your eye on the menu. Again, I don't have specific dates, but just to give you a heads up that it's coming. I don't know if folks had any other burning questions. I can stay on for a few minutes, certainly, if there are any other things that folks wanted to bring back to the food bank. If not, we'll be meeting again in a couple weeks.
Uh, I,
And
I have I have something.
Mary, you want, sure. And
Yeah.
if folks need to drop off at 5, that's fine as well. But go ahead, Mary.
So I ordered corn like I always do, and it wasn't the Stokely's that we had been getting. It was basic. I don't even know what the brand was, but it was from China. Is there a way that the food bank can post the origin? Like, it's not really just me, but my clients will say, like, why are you offering me a canned good from another country, especially corn? Like, there's a part of me that was like, really? So I didn't know how other folks feel about that, but you know that's me, and I understand that that might be all that's available for you guys to find. I
Sure.
get that, but
I mean, to be frank, I'm sure it all boils down to cost, Mary. I know in the past, we've had feedback. We had Raisin Bran from Saudi Arabia at one point, I think. We've certainly had conversation about this, about where food is sourced from and how do you weigh the need to fill a shelf versus what's out there and where it's coming from. I do think, or I should say, I don't think it's possible to display on our menu. I think that goes along with when we're asking for expiration dates, it might not be doable, but I can certainly
okay,
bring it back to
okay,
the team at the food bank and see, because I know those concerns are not just yours alone, and I want to have a better answer for you than that. But it's not, this is not the first time that these things have come up. And I know that we've, altered course in response to that. So let me bring it back to the food acquisition group and see what kind of answers I can get there, Mary.
okay. All right, thank you.
Can
Absolutely.
I just say that
Sure.
we've really appreciated all of the emergency grant funds that have come through. It's been an incredible plus for our budgeting. Thank you.
That's great to hear, a positive out of all of this. And I think, that is something to keep in mind, those of you who are having to order off the menu, that, we have had this kind of once in a lifetime ability to maybe put budget to not the forefront of your mind and
Yeah.
take advantage of the grant money. So that's great to hear. and again, finding a silver lining in a difficult time, I think that's got to be right at the top of our list.
So this is a question for Sarah. I just went on the toolkit and I did the OTDA SNAP benefits. And one of the rules says 20 hours per paid or unpaid work for at least 20 hours a week. Was that exemption?
I would
Or
have to
is
look
that
at
what
that with you, but let me see if I can look at what you are looking at. Hold on a second.
it says?
What
Keep your
page are you
SNAP
on?
benefits. It was, I'll just have to look.
Oh no, it says download and
Page
print here.
6.
The
Yeah.
first link. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yep, this is what we want you to post.
But you were saying it was 30 hours a week.
You know what's funny is that was information from United Way of Tompkins, and so I think that they had a typo.
Okay. I'm just, I was looking at him like, okay, there's a big difference between 20 and 30
I'm going to
hours a week.
message Rebecca right now, and I'm sorry I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I just watched that video from Tompkins.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's great. The platform is great, and if you're in Tompkins, you should definitely use it.
Well, that's
And
not my
Glenda, we
decision.
appreciate your eagle eye, Glenda. Thank you.
So the other question I have is, when is our coalition meeting for Tompkins County? Because
Tompkins County is the end of this month. Let me find the date for you, Glenda. And I can resend that out to the listserv if you're not finding the invitation.
I'm not a Google person. I'm not allowed to use Google.
Okay, so maybe you're not getting the listservs. I'll make myself to send
I
you.
get the listserv, but I just can't get the Google Docs stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a few partners that struggle with that for like safety reasons.
Yep.
Glenda, I'll send you a direct link to the calendar invite to your email, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Sarah, if I could, one more thing I want to say. Thank you so much for the bread and the peanut butter. People were so happy. You
Your
wouldn't think
prayers
they'd be
were
happy
answered.
over bread and peanut butter, but they go, "Oh my God, we got bread and peanut butter!" So thank you, thank you, thank
The
you.
foundation of a fantastic lunch right there is bread and peanut butter. I'm glad it found its way to you,
Yes,
Bev,
thank
especially
you.
on a mobile where you don't have quite as much control. So I'm glad it was heard and reciprocated back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else have anything? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sally.
Well, I was just going to say thanks to Glenda for catching that.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything before you get to go enjoy a little more sunlight than we're used to? No? All right, I'll get these notes put together and send out this recording along with the last one. There was some issues on my end of getting the last one put to YouTube, so I'm going to see if that's set to go, and we'll get this one out for you all. But as always, reach out with any questions or concerns you have, and we will see you in a couple weeks if you're able to join. And thank you again to Sarah DeFrank for joining us with all her amazing advocacy information that I know is you all will find very useful over the coming weeks and months.
Thanks for having me, everybody.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye.